Legends never really die, or die a hero, or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Which is it for the new MX518? Hello, I am Wanderer001, and this is my review of the Logitech G MX518 Legendary. That's right, Logitech brought back one of the most popular gaming mice from over a decade ago. And I know what you're saying to yourself. What do you know about this, Grandpa? Well, as you saw before, I had the original MX518, and it was my primary gaming / everyday mouse for well over a decade, which, saying it out loud, makes me feel very old. I put the original through its paces, and I have started putting the revamped Legendary MX518 through its paces. Granted, my reflexes are not the greatest for FPS games, but I am definitely putting it through its paces in dungeon crawlers and MMORPG. So far, I've got probably a few hundred click hours on the mouse, and I've got a definitive feel for it. So let's talk about the quick general specifications of the mouse. You are looking at a mouse that is 5.16 inches long, with a width of 2.8 and a depth, meaning at its highest point, of 1.6. So it is actually slightly smaller than the original MX518. It also is lighter than the original at 3.6 ounces. You can definitely feel how this is lighter. And in some cases, when we click it, it sounds a little hollower than the original did. And I have mixed feelings about that. I'm gonna call this a mid to large size mouse for my small to medium hand. It does give me enough surface space to grip onto. I have a modified resting or claw grip that I generally use when I am utilizing a mouse. The top of the mouse, if we come in here, has several buttons. You've got your DPI up, your DPI down, a quick reset of DPI, and your center scroll wheel with click, and then your left and right click. I will say the center scroll wheel is definitely not as tactile feeling as the original. It is recessed into the top of the mouse, much like the original was, and for some people that's good, for some people that's bad. For me, I like it recessed because I really don't use that unless I'm scrolling for something. I don't use this for clicking to actuate Discord or anything. It's so having it recessed kind of helps me out. The buttons themselves are rather large. They're not as large as some of the newer mice that are out there, but I do like the fact that there's enough surface space to put my hand on. And if we bring ourselves back here, you can even rest further back and still get your click on. Now, like I said, it is a hollower feeling mouse than the original, but that's to lighten it up. It has the new G logo on it as opposed to the old school Logitech logo. And you might have noticed one big difference, and that is the sticker that they put on the top of it. It no longer looks like that weird holographic 3D thing. I know a lot of people really liked that back in the day. Wasn't a fan of it, but this I can deal with. However, just like the original, it is a fingerprint and crud magnet, so after heavy gaming sessions, you might want to clean your mouse off. Both of them, before coming on camera, did get a nice cleaning. Now, there are no RGB elements to this mouse, so just keep that in mind. If that's something you really need in a mouse, you're not getting it with this MX518 Legendary. Coming across to the left-hand side, we've got our forward and back buttons and a nice recessed cutout here on this for your thumb. I will say I really do like the placement of this, and it is a textured plastic as opposed to the rubbery grip that you had on the original. And for me, I like that. It does not attract as much crud as the original did, and it's deep enough for my finger placement. And the two forward and back buttons here are easy enough to find lifting your thumb from there. On the right hand side here, you've got another cutout with a ledge. And a lot of people are mixed about this. I'm mixed about this too because I've used a couple of other mice at my job that make me question some of the design aspects of this. Granted, still a great mouse, but this lip here, I found out when I'm gaming or doing work, I'm using a weird modified resting grip, and that's because my ring finger is sitting on top of the ledge while the rest of my hand is either dragging along the table because it's resting under the ledge on the side here. If you're trying to get both your fingers under that ledge, and I've got small hands, notice I'm still trying to do this claw grip, my pinky is going to drag a little bit. And again, it's an older design, but it's a classic design. I still love it, but never really realized that I was like 3-finger grabbing it because you're not getting 2 fingers up there. It is a design element that you either are going to love or you're going to hate. Coming back here, you can see that the MX518, just like the original, has a slope to the right hand side. Coming around to the front, you will notice that too. There is our slope to the right. And I like that because it kind of naturally lets your hand rest towards that position. The cable, you might have noticed, is, if I can get that to focus, the cable is thinner than the original and is 7 feet long. So thinner, great. Slightly longer than the original, also great. It is not braided. I do not like braided cables. They kink on me, don't particularly care for them. So I find that that is a nice added element. Coming down to the bottom, you have your PTFE feeties. So top, bottom, and the side, those are just like the original, but now you have one around the sensor itself. You're supposed to be able to get 250 kilometers of mousing using a mouse pad. Myself, I generally use a laminate or sometimes a mouse pad. The original lasted the entire time. It was great. These I'm sure will last just as long, but this sensor, this is primarily what you're gonna get this mouse for, because if your old MX optical 518 is still working, you'll probably still be using that. Sadly, my clicks died. But if you're looking for an upgraded sensor, that is why you're getting this if you enjoyed the classic. Logitech used their Hero sensor 16K. So with that, you get a resolution of 100 to 16,000 DPI. You also have zero smoothing, acceleration, or filtering, meaning this mouse, unlike its predecessor, doesn't try to figure out what you're trying to have the mouse do, if you're trying to move in a straight line or not. This will move the mouse exactly where you are moving your mouse, which is great if you are good at FPS shooters, unlike myself. The MX518 also has onboard memory and a 32-bit ARM processor built into it. And you can program every button on this mouse using either Logitech's proprietary G Hub or their Logitech Onboard software. Why don't we use this as a jumping off point to go look at those and see how they do? This will be the Logitech G Hub for the MX518. When you first start it up, you see your mouse located here. You click on your mouse, and that brings us into the first area, which is our commands or our controls. You can see each button is indicated on the side here, letting you know what is what. You have the option of default, which left click, right click, or you can G-shift, which will pretty much wipe out everything, and you can assign from scratch. And that is under our commands. Should we need to, you have your editing tools, which we can assign to any one of our buttons. Likewise, you have Windows keys and etc. We're going to come across to keys, and then we can search for specific commands if we wanted to assign them to one of these options. Likewise, we have actions, which allows us quite nicely to have access to Overwolf, Discord, and OBS. You can also set up macros from here simply by searching for a macro that you've already created, or we can create a new macro. You also have system, which will allow you to assign system level keys to a particular key. We're going to come all the way back up to command, and we're going to select, hypothetically, the forward key. Right now it's set at use default, but we can disable and reassign a different action to it if we wanted to. I'm simply going to click off of that because I'd like to keep that in place. Now, that was our assignments. Normally, when you first log in, you're going to be on your sensitivity. This is where you can assign your shifting DPI setting all the way down to 400 up to 3200. And here you can see we can even go past that because 3200 is the maximum that I have currently set, but we can shift this all the way up. And you'll notice that the yellow icon here is indicating your shift speed, so the shift between the three presets that I have. Coming down, you have assigned these to your mouse, or we can change the report rate per second. Right now it's on 1000. I can lower it all the way down to 125. You can also use this area to restore the default. And for the MX518, this is really all you can do with the G Hub software. Now, if you wanted to switch over to the onboard memory for your MX518, you simply come up to the settings wheel in the upper right-hand corner, and then notice it says onboard memory off. We would select on, and that will change it from the G Hub software to the onboard memory. When you open your onboard memory for your MX518, you will see the mouse indicated right here, and then profile 1 through 5. So you can set up individual profiles on the mouse itself to take with you if you're using a computer that does not utilize G Hub already pre-installed. Here you can see the DPI, 400 all the way up to 6400. I have it capped, you can see right there, at 3200.
Your report rate, again, from 125 all the way up to 1000. I have it up to 1000. And then here we can assign our mouse buttons. Just like before, with the default, your primary button 1 and 2 cannot be changed. However, if we change it to G Shift, all of our buttons on our mouse become accessible to change as we wish. If we wanted to change middle button 3, we simply come over and select what we would like it to do. And that works with any of them. If we wanted to identify a button, we simply click on Identify and then press. And here you'll see that it lets us know what button it was that we were selecting. And really, that's all we can do with the onboard memory for the MX518.
Something that wasn't as prevalent when I was looking at mice way back in the day was how does a mouse actually sound? So let's give you a nice click test of the MX518 Legendary. One last consideration when looking at a new gaming mouse or just everyday mouse is pricing. Well, you can pick up the Legendary version of the MX518 anywhere from $60 to $30. So that puts it right in the mid-range level for most gaming mice. It's not your $100 level, but it's not your $15 Prodigy review over there in the corner. The question is, did the MX518 die a hero or live to become the villain? Well, it depends on your particular gaming needs or mousing needs. If you're somebody such as myself who grew up with the MX518 original, you're going to find comfort in the original design. A slightly bigger mouse to grab onto, light enough that you can move it around quite freely when gaming, but it's not going to compare to some of the more modern designs. So if you are a younger gamer, chances are you're not going to find this as comfortable or aesthetically pleasing as some of the other mice offerings from Logitech. Again, this does not have any RGB whatsoever and is a classic, we'll call it, design as opposed to a lot of the modern designs with fatter buttons for your fingers to fit into, which isn't terrible in any way, shape, or form, but it's definitely leaning more towards a nostalgic fan base, such as myself. If you're looking to relive the glory days of the MX518, or you want to test it out for yourself, I'll have a link down in the description area below. With that being said, I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, consider giving it a like, as that will help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here, you can always help fuel the next review by buying me a coffee, link in the description below. Last but not least, if you want to be notified when I upload a new video, you know what to do.